Welcome to the Connectable podcast.
The Connectable podcast starts in 3, 2, 1.
Here we go. We have a special co-host tonight. Our friend, very popular friend, Miss Alexis Smith. What's going on?
What's going on, Mr. Takimoto?
I'm going to start off with this right here. And you know this already because you were speaking to my wife earlier before we started recording. When I asked you to be on the podcast, so here's just a little backstory for everybody. When I have a shared calendar with Deb, my co-host, and Rachel's also on that calendar. So anytime I add a guest, everybody's notified. That way, for my own family schedule, Rachel knows what's going on and when I'm recording. No joke. I did that. I believe I talked to you when I was at work. I sent you a quick text during lunch. You're like, yeah, I'm down to do the podcast. When Rachel got home that day, there was no, hey, how's your day? Hey, I love you. None of that. She's like, hey, did you get Alexis on the podcast? And it was like, I wasn't sure what to say. I'm like, yeah, because I knew it was going to happen. I'm like, I did. She's like, that's weird because she never texted me back. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a part of that. I'm not a part of that. So I'll say this. If for some reason I get divorced in the next few months, it's probably Alexis's fault because she's jealous of our podcast friendship.
Listen, I am going to respond to her text specifically to keep your marriage together.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's so funny. I love it.
She's very jealous. And I did tell her, I said, I don't know. I said, if you want to get connected with her, start a podcast. I don't know how to help you, but I'm selfishly, I'm thankful that you responded to my text.
That is so funny. So I am horrible with responding to text messages if they are not pressing. So if they're not about something going on right now or the next full few days, or like you need something from me, I'm horrible.
All right.
Like that. The how are yous and planning weeks out. I'm not your girl. I'm working on it though. I am working on it.
It's tough though. I will respond, but just so anybody knows, if you send a, hey, how are you? Just randomly, you do probably get a little bit of like the eye roll, like, oh no.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how long a conversation is going to go. You know what I mean? Or where it's going to go. So it always makes me a little hesitant. So I'm with you. But so anyways, I'm super excited to have you on the show tonight. Like we were just talking about, you are, and I knew you were really popular, but last time you were on the show, so many people reached out, so many people commented, so many people said, oh my gosh, I love her. I love everything she said. People that you know, some people that you don't know that just listen to our show. So many people reached out. And then obviously when we did our end of the year tournament bracket for guest of the year, your people really showed up for you.
You know what's crazy? I think I can't remember the names. And I meant to go and listen to everybody that I was, placed against.
Yeah.
I meant to listen to all their podcasts. I didn't get around to listening to everybody, but there was some people that had a ton of followers that I was just like, there's no way. I think, I don't even know how many I have, maybe 1,000 friends on Instagram. And I was like, I'm not going to get it. And when I kept making it to the next bracket, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then I lost. And so I was really sad about that, but maybe there's another bracket next year.
Oh, 100%. I have so much fun with it because I don't have to compete. I just get to put it out there and watch all of you guys go crazy.
So much fun.
Well, it was fun watching you too, because obviously when we do this, there's 32 people that compete. And we don't like, it's just nobody necessarily wants to be a part of it. It just happens like, hey, here you guys go. Here's a competition. And so some people get really into it and other people are like, cool, I don't need this in my life. And so, we get responses, both types of responses. And so initially, like halfway through that first day, I didn't see you share anything, which is like, that's fine. She's busy. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, this is cool. Like, what is going on here? And it's also a tournament. And you're like, oh, cool. And then it just went from 0 to 100. And all of a sudden, all these votes flooding in, people supporting you. So I'm honestly surprised you didn't go to the next level because I thought
I love it.
Happen for sure. But
you know what happened? And I don't want to make excuses, but I think I had gotten back from a trip on the last day. I was returning home from a trip. I got home. It was like 8:30, which is past my bedtime. And I was like, I cannot. I was like, I'm gonna send off a post, but I can't. Like, I have to go to bed. And I had a feeling that I was gonna lose it because I just, I had to put my pom poms down.
Hey, I get it. You know, there's everybody has a limit, and you hit that limit. I get that for sure.
Yeah, but next year I think I'm gonna win it.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. But no, that was a lot of fun, and you guys obviously make it a ton of fun because you guys just ran with it, and then it gets a ton of people involved. So that was fun. But between that and your previous episode, like I said, it's just more confirmation that people love you, and it just confirms why we love having you on this podcast. So, but yeah, you're a co-host tonight, so we're just gonna have a conversation. And
I love it.
Deb's out traveling the world, or she was in like Europe for a while. So,
That's amazing.
yeah, it sounds like it was a pretty cool trip based on what she was posting. So we'll have to talk to her about that probably next week. But so if anybody's excited, it's like, oh my gosh, Alexis is the new host. I'm sorry, Deb is coming back at some point. So
Wah, wah, wah.
yeah. So
just for one night.
just for one night, right now, at least until you and my wife make up, and then then we'll have you back.
Give me to the end of the month.
Okay, perfect. No more podcasts until the end of the month.
I love it.
But no, so Alexis had a really cool idea. It's something that Deb and I had talked about before, but we just never pulled the trigger. We just got some questions from you guys, the audience, people on social media, people that listen to those podcasts. We just got some questions from you guys, and we're just going to kind of run through these because I think, they're kind of all over the board, but I thought it'd be a fun thing to do. So if you're ready, Alexis, we'll just kind of jump into these.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Let's start with this, just a simple one first. We had somebody ask, what is your favorite food splurge? So I think we talked a little bit about this last time, actually quite a bit about this last time. You were in the bodybuilding world. And so you've kind of gone through all different kinds of, fitness journeys and nutrition journeys. I don't know where you're at right now as far as your food intake and what kind of, foods you eat and don't eat. I will tell you right now, I'm trying to lose weight because the holidays hit me hard. So I'm trying to really cut some stuff down right now. So I'm trying to think what my favorite food splurge would be, but what is yours?
You know what? That's interesting. So I think we, touched on this a little bit on the last podcast that I sat down with you. I am a trashy junk food eater. So donuts from the gas station, Snickers. I just like, there's nothing fancy. I just like trashy hot Cheetos. But the older that I get, the more aware I am of how horrible those things make me feel.
Sure.
And I went through, I did some testing and figuring out things that I'm allergic to. And so I am allergic to wheat and I'm allergic to dairy. And so those are just things that I try to stay away from. And so my junk food splurges these days are, and they've come such a long way with gluten-free snacks. I mean, There's so many delicious options out there. And so I'll eat anything that's like a deep, dark chocolate that's gluten-free. I just tear it up. So I just found these quinoa. They're like dark chocolate quinoa crisps that I found at Costco.
That sounds delicious.
Chef's kiss. They are delicious. Yeah. So that's kind of what like my splurge right now.
Yeah, that sounds delicious. I'm not allergic to anything. And so I can just go wild. And I'm with you. Like the gas food, like the donuts, even before in the past, I've gone there before work and I'm wearing like a black shirt with, black pants. And I see those powdered donuts. I'm like, I know this is a horrible idea. It's going to get on me. And it's stuck on my throat. Don't care. It's like, I'll wear one of my daughter's bibs if I can eat one of those donuts. They're delicious.
Yes. I love those so much. I don't know why. I like the powder donuts and the chocolate donuts are good too. I like them both equally. But even though the chocolate, like there's something plasticky about the coating.
Oh, 100%.
I still love it. The texture, the taste.
They're so good.
Yeah.
You know, the problem though, I don't know if you have this, but the problem with those chocolate ones is they do get on your teeth. And then like I'm
Yeah.
smiling and it's like, I'm missing like 5 teeth because it's just covered by chocolate donut.
Wait, listen, when it's my indulging time, I don't even care. Chocolate covered teeth, who cares?
I'm with you. Yeah, I love sugar. Like I love sugar for sure, which is again part of the problem. So I try to limit as much as I can, but some of that stuff, I just And even when you try to find like the healthier snacks that are sugar, even then it's like I still know that I'm kind of cheating the system. And
Yeah.
and it's one of those things too where it's like, okay, you're supposed to eat like a certain amount, right? Like even for those healthy snacks, but if I eat the whole bag, then it kind of defeats the purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I listened to your podcast.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna get her name wrong. It's I think her name was Kaylee and her Instagram is Kale.
Oh,
something.
the one we just dropped today, Kaylee Estep.
I checked her out, and I also listened to the one with Connor Manning, which
Yeah.
I just loved it.
You just saw him. Didn't you just see him?
I was just in Minneapolis and I got to see him, and it was, so we both did master's commission. When I did my first year, I want to say he was already like a youth pastor or something in that area.
Okay.
And so we would go to high school campuses and we would just kind of connect with the kids on campus.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in charge of that part of the ministry. And so I remember kind of not working for him, but working under his leadership and kind of, knowing him from a distance, but never really got to know him intimately. But what's interesting is that when we were, I told him that I was going to be out there with my master's commission girls, class 9. And he was like, okay, well, let me know. I'm not too far. I would love to connect with all of y'all. And even though we didn't have that close relationship in masters, it didn't feel weird. It felt so right for us to be in Minneapolis and for him to come down and visit us. And then we sat at a restaurant for maybe 2 hours and we just talked and laughed. And it was so beautiful in so many ways. And I'm just so thankful for those types of connections. Because like I said, we went through that master's program together and it's kind of like torture.
Yeah.
And when you and a group of people have been tortured, there's just this unbreakable bond, and I can't really explain it, but you feel connected to these people. And so so I was excited to go back and listen to his podcast after having sat down with him and spent some quality time with him. So that was neat.
That's very cool. Yeah, he's a good dude.
He's a really good dude. Yeah. But I don't know how we got onto that. I was about to talk about snacks.
Kaylee, you listened to Kaylee's episode.
You were talking about you love sour candies.
Oh,
so I have a hack for you. I think they're called sweet sugar or something, but you get them at Whole Foods. Okay. And they have like their version of Swedish fish. They have like the little peach rings. They have little sour gummy bears. And for like a whole pack, the serving size, I can't really recall, but it's such a small amount compared to regular. It's less sugar, less carbs. And it's a healthier version of those candies. So if you're looking for a hack, definitely try those out. Whenever I go to the movies, I always grab a bag of those and I don't feel guilty about eating the whole pack.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey, you don't have to convince me anymore. I'm going to try it. You said Whole Foods? Whole Foods. Okay.
Whole Foods. Take it.
That sounds delicious. Love it.
Yeah.
So that's it. It sounds like sugar. Sugar is kind of sweet things. Junk food, kind of our splurge items for both of us. Yeah, I'm with you. I can't get enough of that stuff. Even though I've paused it for a minute, You know, the sucks too about that is I feel like when you take a break from that type of stuff, it's all around you. Like
Oh yeah.
people are offering it to you. It's like, you've never offered me food in my entire life, and now all of a sudden you're popping
You
up with
never
these
come to
cookies.
my office with donuts. What are you doing?
I know. They're like, hey, I have like 5 donuts. You want one? I'm like, I do, but I'm not going to. It's
Of
tough.
course I want one.
Of
Yeah.
course.
So wait, so when did you decide to stop eating junk food? What happened?
I stepped on a scale. I'm like, oh, okay, there we go. It's
Mm-hmm.
so yeah. I mean, it was probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago. You know, I
Oh,
started
this
getting
is new.
pretty new, pretty new.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know, it's one of those things, especially when you obviously. We have 2 daughters, and so you're taking a lot more pictures, and then you start looking at those pictures like, who's who's that guy back there? Oh, it's me. That
Dad bod
the
in full
dad bod,
effect.
a full effect. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do it. Not yet. Not yet. So trying to get rid of
Too
that.
young.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I've just never believed in just accepting that. I can't do it, you know? So I'm trying to get better about that. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully. And that's an interesting thing too about these podcasts. Like, obviously, before you and I started recording, every time, if you guys follow us on social media, you know, we take a screenshot before we start recording and then post it later tonight. You see, I like last summer I was in pretty good shape, and I'm like, oh man, look at my face, my neck looking better. And then now it's like, went back. Now it's like I really need like the full this full widescreen. It's like, oh man, I'm gonna fill up the screen pretty soon.
You are so funny. That is so dramatic. First of all, that's not
Very
true.
dramatic. Yeah, I know.
Second of all, so I mean, this is natural, right? I don't like, I think about this all the time too.
Okay.
Being lean year round, maybe it's just not for you. And maybe you can have a little extra, maybe, 5, 7 pounds during the winter. And then come March, start to shred it off a little bit, but nothing extreme. I don't think anything extreme is necessary.
No.
Just like, simple replacements or portion control or things that are sustainable.
Yeah, it's mainly that stuff. And I obviously I joke on this podcast a lot, but it's nothing extreme, but it really is, it is tightening up the diet. Because I think what happens is I can definitely be a snacker, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so that's what usually kills me is, and yeah, I could avoid, like, I could not eat lunch one day, but it doesn't really make that much of a difference because I've eaten a ton of stuff before and after when lunch would have been. And it's just like, really, you're probably eating more food. And so it's really tightening up that stuff. So it's actually not that bad. And in all honesty, as much as I joke, I do have a leaner frame just naturally. And so it really comes off pretty quick. I know some people hate hearing that because it's like, it's a huge struggle for, right. It's a huge struggle for some people. In all honesty, it's actually not that bad for me. Like if I get out, do some running, work out a little bit, eat better,
It'll fall off.
it goes pretty quick. So yeah, so I'm fortunate in that sense. I know for some people it's a huge struggle, and it's not easy at all. So I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. I'm definitely going to check out Whole Foods though. Based on what
Check
you
it
just
out.
said.
You won't regret it.
Perfect. I love it. So let me see, what do we have next? So you got some questions too. And so I'm gonna just mention what you sent me, and then maybe you can give a little bit more context to maybe what the person was going for, because I think some of these are pretty simple. But the first one was age/competing. Do you have more context behind that one?
So a girlfriend of mine that, so I actually did one competition with her. She was one of the women that was on my team. And she's older. I hate to do this. I think she may be 50, maybe 53. And I mean, this woman has an amazing physique.
Mm-hmm.
She has a phenomenal, I mean, she's just so driven and she's passionate about the sport. She's been competing for a long time. And, and I've had conversations with her where, she's like, do I want to do this? Am I passionate about it? Is it healthy? All kinds of things swirling around in, the minds of women and men who compete.
Mhm.
And so I think I believe right now she's on a journey where she's, leaning out and getting ready for a show. And so that's one of the things she sent me was actually I want to make sure I um, get this right. She said, "Do you still keep competing at any age as long as your body allows you?"
Mm.
And I responded to her, I go, "If the body is as sexy as yours, I say ride it till the wheels fall off."
That's
Shout
awesome.
out to Raina Matthews. And honestly, I mean, she looks amazing. And I, I don't think that I have the right to even really speak on this. I think if someone's passionate about something, if they feel good doing something, I say go with it. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, so I mean, and obviously you know her, I don't, but just based on what she was saying, I guess it's not so much about what the body can do, right? It's more about what you would like to do or what you're passionate about still, right? Because for some people, their body may still physically be able to do the rigorous training that's involved with bodybuilding, but their mind and heart might be like, I've been out of this thing for so long. I don't
Yeah.
even, I don't want to do it. So, I mean, really, I mean, it seems like it's more about what's making her or anybody happy. Like if it's not making you happy, but you could still physically do it, or you still have the ability to do it, that almost feels like it's secondary to me, at least, right? Like it's really about what's here, if you're so passionate. Because I mean, it seems like something as extreme as bodybuilding. I mean,
Mhm.
you did it for quite a few years. That's not really a 1 foot in, 1 foot out thing. Like, you have to be either all in or all out, right?
You have to be all in. And I only did it for 2 years. Um, you have to be all the way in. And if you're not, it's gonna show.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Right.
show. And I think the easiest way, like this is good for life and this is good for, just anything. What you think has to line up with what you say, and what you say has to line up with what you do.
Yeah.
And those things, your habits, those beliefs, your everyday ritual, like those things create who you are. And at any point, if those things don't line up, that is madness. And so I think a part of me, I was, when I first started, I was all about it. I was 100%, 110% in, and following the diet. And then you get to a point where you're like, okay, now I'm cheating a little bit. I'm adding a little more chicken, or I'm adding a little more peanut butter, or I'm adding in a rice cake before I go to just or a bite of someone else's food. And then those kind of things are, obviously I'm not doing what I said I was going to do. And so I think there's so many things that just kind of go, fall in line with that. If I'm not doing what I said I'm doing, or if I'm not being who I said I am, then like obviously there's going to be insecurities. Obviously I'm going to have some of those, alarms go off that don't feel good. And so and what's interesting about just being all in and being really satisfied. I had this conversation the other day, a very short conversation. And it was Arash's, one of his friends and someone on his real estate team.
Mhm.
And we were talking about, I don't remember the topic, but I asked him, I said, what, how did you get there? Oh, he says he stopped going to Costco and decided to go to Sam's Club. And then he said he and his wife decided to, pause their gym membership at 24-hour fitness. Now they go to CalFit, just little things like that. And I was like,
Sure.
why did you do that? He goes, I don't know. I think sometimes we get stuck in these patterns and we don't live outside of those patterns. And I just wanted to try something new to see if anything in my life would change. And it got me thinking, it's so interesting because the last maybe 10 times that I've gone to Costco, I look around and I'm like, they don't really have like they used to have all these things, all these treats that I loved, all these different specific foods that Costco carries that they carried, and they just don't have it anymore.
Hmm.
And so, and how dare I say I go to Costco and don't find anything because it's
Yeah.
a warehouse full of all the
Huge.
things.
Yeah.
But I go to Costco and I'm not really satisfied with what I'm finding. And it's been that way for a while, but I continue to go. Why? Because it's just where I've gone for years, and I'm going to continue to go to Costco because that's just, it's just what I do. And so it made me think about all the things in life, like where am I settling in relationships or anything that I have going on in my life? Where do I have that same mindset where I'm not satisfied here, but because it's what I've always done, I'm going to keep doing it.
Right.
Like, where am I locked in those areas? And so, I don't know. I've just been really thinking about that the last maybe 24 hours.
No, I love that. And that's interesting too. And tell me if you do this when you go to a place like Costco or maybe even your normal grocery store, especially if you're going to the grocery store and you're trying to shop for the entire week. I think most people have their patterns, right? Like you go through a certain entrance of the store, you know, shop a certain direction. I mean, maybe it's just me, but like that's typically what happens. Same with Costco. Like you kind of go a certain direction and then you end up in a certain, part of the store before you check out. Even if you don't need something from that section, it's just like your pattern, right? And you don't think about it. It's just what you're you've conditioned yourself to do. And I think to your point, it's just like you said, you're used to it and it becomes just part of the routine, almost like, you know, getting dressed in the morning, brushing your teeth, showering. It's just, you don't think about it. You don't have to think about it. You just do it. And that's an interesting thing because it's like almost when you do kind of come to that realization, like, oh, this is weird. Like I just do this all the time, like you did over the last 24 hours. It is a very strange thing because then you start looking at all the different areas of your life where that is the case. And I think that is an interesting way of looking at it because I'm sure a lot of people, I know myself, I have plenty of those things where you just do it. It's kind of like when you, what's that called when is it like highway hypnosis, you know, where you're driving, especially at night, and it's like the same route that you always take. And sometimes you get home, it's like, how did I don't remember making like the last 5 turns.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a freaky thing, but it's kind of the same thing, right? Like you just kind of black out for a portion of your life. And then you realize, you look back and think, man, I just missed a ton.
How devastating is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's devastating. I read a book. I can't remember the title right now, but he talks about having that mind-body connection. And there is like maybe a chapter or two where they discuss he talks about how by the time you're in your 30s, 95% of who you are is basically built on habits. And so it's just habitual. And so you're just doing all of these things that create who you are, but your mind is no longer in control. Your body is the mind because it's been doing it for so long. And so I've really been working on trying to pull myself out of the body and actually put myself in places with people that I love and actually be there and make decisions from being there, not just because this is what I always do.
That's interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's weird. It's a very bizarre thing to think about. Like it's almost an unsettling thing to think about. You know, when you start thinking about how that applies to my own life, or if anybody's listening to this, how, you know, it applies to their life. It is it's 100% true, you know. And what was it again? 90, you say 95%?
95%.
95%.
Who you
Dang.
are. Isn't that that's devastating.
95% is a lot. So there's just that 5% that you have to hope kind of breaks through at some point to get you out of your rut.
You gotta hope and pray.
Man,
yeah,
that's wild. I feel like that could have been a whole podcast conversation.
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time. After a month. Don't worry, Rachel. I know you're listening. I'm not even gonna talk to Alexis for like two years. Just make sure you guys are good.
Don't you say that.
I'm just kidding. I shouldn't have said that. Now I'm in trouble on both sides. I offended too many people. Okay, well, since you mentioned books, we had a question come through. Top 3 books you would recommend to others. Do you have? I actually brought my 3 books with me.
Shut your mouth.
I
Show
was
me
ready.
yours.
Okay, so let me see. Where do I want to start? Okay, so this one, I don't know if we have anybody that's a coach or an athlete or that competes in anything, but even if you don't, this is a really cool book. It's called Mind Gym by Gary Mack. It's a really short read. It's like right about 220 pages, but it's really good. The chapters are super short, but it just gives you these ideas and concepts about like mental toughness, mental strength, anything that you would need to compete in anything, like whether you're running, you're trying to improve your running time just as a casual runner, or if you're actually a legit athlete that's competing in some kind of sport. Just really cool ways to kind of unlock and clarify like what's going on through your mind as you're competing or as you're training and doing all that. So I love that one. Another one is Soul Cravings by Eronic Mcmanus. I love that book. Again, it has super short chapters. Maybe my attention span is not great for long chapters, but these small chapters, again, probably one of the most impactful books on me. And it's actually probably about time that I read it again, but just again, looking at, kind of what drives your soul or what your soul craves as you're going through
Cravings.
Yeah. Soul Cravings by Erwin Mcmanus. He's one of my favorite authors and speakers. He's incredible. That is a faith book. So anybody out there, I don't want to surprise you with that one. That is a faith book. So, that being said, it's still incredible. And even if that's not what you subscribe to, I would still check it out because there's a lot of great stuff in there. And then the last one, I've talked about this on this podcast and my other podcasts quite a bit, Tribes by Seth Godin. That one's incredible. And how, obviously, talk about how like throughout life, we find ourselves in these different tribes, whether you're starting a company or you run a company, and the tribe that you market to, or maybe you're a sports coach, that your tribe is your athletes, whether you're, a fitness instructor, or like a spin cycling instructor, like your tribe is that group, whatever it may be. We find ourselves in these tribes, and like, how do you connect with the tribe? Why do you connect with the tribe? Why do you feel connected with certain tribes and not other tribes? All of those different things. And Seth Godin he's an incredible author when it comes to these concepts. So, that's just the books will do a much better job explaining the concepts than I did, but those are 3 books that it was tough. It's like picking your favorite kid. I love Alexis.
That is so funny.
She just left, but no, I mean, there's so many. Oh, you have tries too, so you enjoy it?
Yeah, I I'll be honest. I bought this book maybe 6 years ago, and I never finished it. I think I got like halfway through. So I'm putting Soul Cravings and this on the top of my list.
They're really good.
Yeah, I'll check it out for sure. That first book you showed, that guy looked like David Goggins for some reason.
A little bit. That's funny.
Yeah, I actually want to check out all those books. And that first one was called Mind Gym.
Mind Gym. Yeah, like I said,
sorry,
super.
I'm like writing down the titles.
No, yeah, please do. No, it's really, really good stuff. In fact, I've done, when I was working with Character Combine, I would get invited to do team talks for certain groups. And I definitely stole a lot of concepts from that book, just because they were really, like I said, super simple, but just really, really good stuff. So
I love it.
Those are my 3. Like I said, I have a bunch of books that I would recommend. As you can see behind me, I had a bunch that I'm like, oh, should I shout this one out? But those are the 3 I landed on.
I love them. This is so hard. So I literally have like a stack of, you see that stack of very ghetto line sitting in my windowsill.
It works.
It works for now. And I'm trying to like Jimmy rig my phone so it doesn't fall.
That's okay. I feel like Alexis has those books in the window so she can show off to everybody how smart she is. Like, I don't know if you guys saw my window, but look at the stack of books.
Oh, no, that's horrible. I need to get a bookshelf, but You know what? I'm trying to figure out which top 3 books that I would recommend. Of course, I had the book that I recommended from
From last
our
time, right?
for sure. And then I think for now, Will Smith came out with a book recently called,
Oh yeah,
I think it was just called Will.
I think so. I think it's just Will.
That book is so good.
Yeah.
Did you read it?
No, I haven't read it yet. But
Okay.
a lot of people talk about that one, and then Matthew McConaughey's book. Like I feel
Oh,
like
see, is it Green something?
Green something. My brother read it, but I feel like those are like right now, as far as actors, actresses, those are the 2 books I hear really, really
Okay.
good things about.
Yeah, I've heard good things about Matthew McConaughey's book too. I haven't read it yet, but Will Smith, love that book. I am reading a book right now called, and I do this really weird thing when I read books. If they mention other books, I make a list of it, and then I kind of start attacking the list of books that the author talked about reading. And so Will Smith mentioned a handful of books that I want to read all of them. And one of the books that he read was Tuesdays with Maury, which
Ooh.
I have not started reading, but the author wrote another book called, I think it's called One More Day.
Okay.
And I just finished that one. I took that on the plane to Minneapolis, and it's a short book. It's a very short read. And I took that on the plane with me when I went to Minnesota, and I finished it by the time I got back, just
Wow.
on the airplane. So good. And then I'm reading a book right now called The Body Keeps the Score.
Oh, interesting. That's a cool title.
And oh, it's such a good book. It talks about trauma. It talks about abuse. It talks about neglect. He kind of does all these different case studies with different groups of people, and follow them for years, like just all kinds of different studies. And the premise of the book, he started, the guy was a therapist, a psychotherapist, and he started his career working with Vietnam veterans. And the first chapter of the book, he dives in on Vietnam vets and victims of a sexual assault.
Got it.
And he talks about how they process trauma and respond to the world and people kind of in similar ways.
Right.
And the book just dives in about epigenetics and how if your mother experienced trauma growing up, that could have affected the genes of her children. So genetically speaking, right, like I am who I am, partly, yes, genes, what my mom was born with, but also what she had to endure, because your genetics change based on your environment, based on trauma, based on how you're taken care of or neglected, etc. And so I am unpacking this and unpacking so much while I'm reading this book, and highly recommend it for anyone. I think it is a lovely book if you want to understand.
The body keeps the score.
The Body Keeps the Score.
Interesting.
Yeah. Such a powerful, eye-opening, a lot of good information in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's 3. I think that's my 3.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I will check those out as well. That's really interesting. Yeah. Again, I feel like that last book could be a whole conversation, just because. Well, I'll say it. So it's interesting when you hear stories like that, and when you hear the how they have families, right, and their kids have kids and they become grandparents and all that stuff, and how that trauma or that pain can be passed on, or at some point, if someone is able to break the cycle, then maybe they can send their family into that emotional pain into a different direction. But you don't hear it in the sense of like how it's attached, or how it's like actually infused into their genetics, which makes that whole idea of breaking the cycle really interesting, right? Because it takes it to another level, because you're not just fighting against emotional mental scarring that could have been done, but there's also something that even deeper, like physically in your genes, that you're also battling against, if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly.
It's so deep.
Yeah.
And it even goes on to, like, it goes further to say, like, the way your mother nurtured you, it can affect the way it can affect your serotonin, the way that you're able to process fear, or the way you're able to emotionally process things. It's all so deeply embedded in your genes, and your environment. And so it's like one of those things that I'm really just trying to I feel like I'm always just trying to really dive into and figure out who I am and why I am. And so I feel like this is just like another one of those pages in the book where I'm, another book that I'm reading, that's another page in my book story, just trying to figure those things out.
That's interesting. Sorry, I have one more question. Now this has really gotten my attention, because that is a really interesting thought. So, and you'll have to let me know, maybe I haven't gotten this far, maybe they won't address this, but again, a lot of times when you hear people talk about how they break the cycle of, we'll just call it pain, right? Whatever that pain may be in their family, they break that cycle. It almost sounds like, instead of completely cutting it off and eliminating it, it almost sounds like it's almost more, you're watering it down, right? Like you just keep kind of adding water to it. And there's still elements of it still there, even if you're able to kind of get away from some of that pain and kind of send your family genes, or, your family's, on a new course. It almost sounds like there's still going to be elements of that because it is in your genes. Is that right? Does that make sense? That might've been a weird question.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a lot. I honestly don't know. From what I've read so far, the premise is, obviously there's work to be done, right? So a lot of these people would need therapy. And it also talks about how a lot of victims who have experienced trauma almost like they've shut off any recollection of that trauma. So they don't even remember that it's happened, but they are facing the consequences of those events. And it's the same thing with, maybe you're acting out a certain way. Maybe you're really promiscuous. Maybe you're an alcoholic. Maybe you are really closed off to people and don't have the ability to connect intimately with someone. And it's not something that even happened to you. It's just something that maybe some trauma that was passed on and it affected you, who knows? And so, it is one of the things that he talks about, where he just kind of works with his patients and just diving in a little bit deeper and figuring those things out.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I don't fully understand it. It's
a very strange concept. Yeah. Well, if anybody's listening to it, that's my last question about this topic, but go get the book, do your own research, and let me know.
The body keeps the score.
And I'll need to check that out. That's great. So you guys have some homework to do. We sent some books your way, so check them out for sure.
That's right.
Let me see. We have a couple more questions left. Let me see. Let's go with this one. Another one you sent me. So the last two are the ones that you sent me. Financial literacy. I'm gonna let you kind of take the lead on that one, because I feel like, obviously you're in you're a real estate agent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like this is like kind of your world, right? Like you probably see all kinds of situations and people that come to you, clients of yours that are probably in, various stages financially. And I imagine, because obviously purchasing a house is a massive, massive purchase.
Yeah.
And I imagine that this is something that you constantly have to deal with, right? Like just maybe not deal with, but something you constantly see as you're working with clients, right? Like they may think they can afford something and they're not even close to that, or they may just not have any kind of understanding of where they are financially. So that being said, like, again, this was a question that you received, and so maybe you have a little bit more context to it, but What are your thoughts on that?
Oh my gosh, so many things to unpack. So this is what I will say. I don't really I'm not as heavy into real estate as I probably should be, and definitely not as invested as my boyfriend Arash. He is one of the top producers in Folsom. I mean, just doing incredible work. And the most interesting thing that the difference in people's financial, the way that they look at finances, the way that they look at money, the way that they operate, the way that they use it, the way that they save it, just to see the difference in different races
Mm-hmm.
is so interesting. And Arash deals with, most of his clients have a ton of money. They're buying several properties. They'll buy two houses back to back and then another house. And I mean, and then there's clients that'll buy money with stock money. So it's not like and even, clients that'll say, hey, call on FaceTime and show me the house and put an offer in. So people that have money, that kind of money, to where buying a home is, yes, it's a big deal, but it's not that big of a deal.
Sure.
So looking at that group of people, and then the group of people that my heart really goes out to, where they don't have the right credit score, they do not have any savings, and they don't have someone that's going to help them put a down payment on their home.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people that my heart really breaks for, because a lot of times you have these, more often than not, young people who have had no one showing them or guiding them or telling them the how-tos or why to, so that they can be in a situation where they can purchase a home or be financially stable. And then once you start having those conversations, then you got to pull it back and talk about, why certain races of people, their parents didn't have properties, or their parents didn't have properties. And that is generational wealth, right? Mm-hmm. If you think about your grandma, if she owned her home and she paid maybe $30,000 for it at the time, mm-hmm. Now what is it worth? It's over $1 million. Right. And so passing those things down, honestly, and it's sad to say, but for the most part, the Black community we don't have that. Mm-hmm. We don't have generational wealth. We don't have people passing down homes, and we don't have, an aunt or an uncle that says, hey, I want to buy a house. Can you give me $15,000, $20,000 to assist me? And you see other, a large group of people who they can't have that. And so, I say all that to say this: I don't see myself as someone really qualified to talk about financial literacy. What I will say is, when I was younger, my mom tried to teach me all the things: how to build a credit score, how to use a credit card, saving money. And I thought I knew everything, and I didn't listen to anything she said. Right.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, my whole life I had been working all kinds of raggedy jobs, Starbucks and cleaning people's homes and babysitting and, anything I could do, waiting tables. And then in 2010, I got the opportunity where I was finally introduced to a real job. And it's in the industry that I've been in since 2010. And I was introduced for the first time to finally not working several jobs just to pay the bill. I was able to quit all those jobs, and I was able to work one job, and I finally had some money. Like, I started traveling, and I can, I don't have to look at, the price tag on everything when I go to the grocery store.
Right.
I can buy whatever I want. Now I can buy, organic. And, starting that job and making that income, I didn't have any forward thinking to save.
Sure.
right? I'm making really good money every 2 weeks. I make commission every 2 weeks. I'm gonna, I know that I am a top performer, so I'm gonna make really good money, and I don't have to worry about anything. And I think maybe 7 months into me working this job, I had 2 really bad pay periods. So that's a whole month of just horrible pay. And I couldn't pay my rent.
Mm.
And I just remember I was devastated, and I was embarrassed, because here I am. I have all these cute clothes. I've got cute shoes. My nails and my toes are done every 2 weeks, and now I'm struggling, and I can't pay my rent. And I will never forget. Um, I just made a promise to myself that that would never happen. I was not ever going to live paycheck to paycheck ever again. And, at this time, I was just making money for the first time. My credit was horrible. I had a 575.
Mm.
And it was like I didn't have a bunch of cards, but I had hospital bills, and then I had a car that was towed and was sitting in the tow yard for all these months. So then all that money was stacked up on it. And so I just decided that I was going to, of course, work really, really hard. But I was just not going to spend money. So I just hardly went out to eat. I packed my lunch every day at work. I didn't get my nails done. I didn't get my toes done for a while. And just maybe for like a year and a half, I just worked, and I just slowly but surely started paying off all of that debt that I had that was affecting my credit score. And, eventually got my credit score up to I think it was a 795.
Hmm.
And it took a lot of sacrifice, right? There was a lot of times people were going out and people were doing things, and I had to say, hey, I can't go. Not in my budget right now. Unfortunately, like, if you want to hang out, come to the house, like I'll make us dinner.
Yeah.
And so I just, I wish that more people would be willing to make a temporary sacrifice so that they could benefit in the long run, potentially forever. Um, and I'm not blind to the fact, like it's hard to tell someone to save $100 every paycheck when they're living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Right. So if I'm already can barely pay my bills, if I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul, how am I going, to save $100? But then I think there's also like little ways where we're spending money and we don't realize it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's one time I went on this little cancel spree, and I was like, let me figure out all the places that I'm spending additional money where I don't need it. And then I was like, okay, Spotify.
Yeah.
Okay, you have 5 gym memberships. Narrow it down. Do you need 5? No, you don't need 5. Okay, there you go. And then so I just started making all these little tweaks, and I think it came out to like I was spending $300 unnecessarily on things that I just didn't need to have. I think I had like an Ipsy, like one of those little things you order, and makeup comes every so often. And I don't even know how to do makeup. Why do you have a box of makeup coming? It's just frivolous things we spend money on that we don't think about. And I just think if more people were willing to make those small sacrifices and just chip away at their debt, they'd get so far. And the time is going to pass anyways, right? So a year is going to pass regardless. I can either have really good credit next year, or I can have really bad credit, right? And that credit is a difference between you walking into a car dealership and getting a really nice car and not putting any money down, and having a low car payment, or walking into a dealership and buying a bucket.
Right.
and putting 4,000 down and spending $600 a month on that car note for a 15-year-old car.
Right.
And so like I said, I don't really think I consider myself someone that can really speak on financial literacy to help other people, but it's all about those little sacrifices, I think, to start with.
Yeah. I don't have too much to add to that. I thought that was good. Well, I think it was interesting too, because I feel like sometimes when people, because I'm definitely not one to talk about these types of things, but, um, I do, like, I think, everything you said, there's a lot of empathy. I mean, I think you're just an empathetic person in general. That's why we like talking to you, because I think, from all the years, even going way, way back when I first kind of met you and you were doing, run clubs in Oak Park, there's always been that empathy in you. And I think that's a huge part of it. Like, I think when people are giving, because we've all heard people give these financial tips and advice to people, and it's a very cookie cutter thing that you're saying to these people. And it's like, well, not everybody's in that same position. Like you said, putting away $100 for one person, that seems like you're putting away like $1,000 to another person.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're giving that advice, and I think if you're giving that, kind of those kind of suggestions, I think having that empathy for, helping make it more palatable for the person who you're giving that advice to is huge. And so I think, like you said, even if you're not giving like the ABC of how to be more financially literate, I think just what you said was perfect. I think little tips that can help people be more aware, or maybe avoid the pitfalls, right? Because if you can hear everything Alexis just said and it maybe avoid some of those things for yourself, like that's huge. You know what I mean? You don't have to go through some of that stuff because Alexis went through it for you, and she's sharing that info.
I made those mistakes, honey. Nails were done, toes were done. I couldn't pay my rent.
Yeah. See, there you go. She did all the homework for you. You don't have to do anything. Just do the right thing.
So funny. Yeah.
But I think that's interesting. But no, I think I wish it was something that, was, I guess, focused more on in schools too. Maybe they do now. I mean, I didn't learn any of that stuff when I was in school.
It's one of the things there's so many things I would love to just, the world needs some fixing. And I feel like if we get some younger tenderonis into government, then we can make some change. Yeah. Like, for example, and this is way off topic, but I went to Joshua Tree last weekend with some friends, and
I saw that. It was cool.
It was fabulous. But we drove through Barstow. Have you ever been there?
No.
Okay.
I've heard.
It's such an interesting little farm town.
Yeah.
But there are so many neighborhoods, so many just homes, strips of homes where no one lives there anymore. And no one will ever live there. They're just abandoned, these little abandoned homes. And my friend was like, this is where we need to just bring all the homeless people here and let them, it's like you drive through and it's almost like an entire small town where there's nobody. It's just empty homes. And my friend was like, we should ship all the homeless people here, let them do their thing here. And I'm like, yeah, that would be a great idea.
That's not bad.
But another thing we're failing, our kids in the school system is, that we should be teaching them valuable things, like how to balance a checkbook, how to save, how to, not just how to do your taxes. Kids should be learning how to trade stocks, and you could start off having them, trading fake stocks. And then maybe, 6 months into the class, you start putting in $1 here or 50 cents there. And so that they have a basic understanding of how these things work. And because we don't have a basic understanding, a lot of us are too afraid to do it. Right. And so because we have that fear, I feel like we're not tapping into everything that is available to us. And so, like you said, these are absolutely things that should be taught in school. And to take it a step further, in school, they could literally be they could be showing kids how to build credit now. Sure. They could sync up with the parents, and you could start them with a credit card, and they could be building their credit for 4 years while they're in high school. So when they graduate, they have a 750, they have an 800, and they're ready to go and do all great things. And we don't. Instead, we're teaching, fake history.
Yeah.
And we won't even go into that. That's
It's a whole other
conversation
topic.
too.
And
Yeah.
next time you're on, we'll go down that road.
Okay. Woo.
Maybe we'll see. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll see.
No, I love that. I think that's great. And yeah, hopefully one day we'll see that. And I think it'd be a great thing for sure.
Yeah.
So we have one more. I always want to be respectful of your time, because I know you said your bedtime was 8:30 and we were well past that. So thank you as always for hanging out and being willing to chat. But the last one that we have is another one. The last one that you sent me, boundaries. Again, I don't know if you have any context for that. I mean, I think I have an idea, but any context you want to add to that one before we kind of dive in?
I don't even remember who sent that to me. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay.
You remember?
Go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, I think this is something that, Deb talked about. So Deb started another podcast that's kind of like a branch of this one, and it's called Not Here to Judge. And you guys should definitely check that out if you haven't already. But she just has a bunch of her girlfriends on. They talk and just about life, all kinds of things. And I feel like they had talked about this at one point, setting boundaries, just in life. But yeah, go find that and check that one out. It's a good episode. But what was the context?
So wait, the podcast is called Not Here to Judge?
Yep, Not Here to Judge.
I love that. Okay.
You would be an awesome guest on that.
Look at you volunteering me for a show that ain't even yours.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, she'll be fine. No. Don't tell Rachel I offered you to another podcast.
That's so funny. Deb, girl, if you ever need me, I am fully available. I'm going to actually check that podcast out too. It sounds like something that I would actually enjoy.
Yeah. And I think you would. And you would be, no joke, you would be great on that podcast. If you want. She records a lot earlier too, so you wouldn't be up, past your bedtime.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I was going to ask you, why do you record so late? But it's because you have babies and you don't want to take away from their time and all that.
That's every once in a while I make the exception to record earlier in the day. It's a little easier now just because of the ages they're at. It's a little bit more manageable. For a while, it's like, I can't do that, because as I'm recording, even with these noise canceling headphones, I can hear the crying, and I can hear the chaos going on. It's like, I don't feel right being in here having a great conversation, and
and mom's,
just like I'm
circus.
Yeah, like I'm gonna kill him when he comes out here. Stupid podcast. Like,
so
I don't want to deal with that. But that being said, that is one of, like, for me personally, again, I don't know what the context of this question was, but like for me personally, that's one of the boundaries that I have to try to set up for myself, because I was thinking about it. I'm pretty good about setting boundaries for other people. That's not really a problem. But that being said, much like you, I like my quiet time. Like with people, when I say quiet time, I like spending time with like my close, tight knit circle. Anything outside of that, like I'm like, I don't have a problem like kind of saying, no, I'm good. I don't need to go hang out here or do this. I have no problem with that. But I think where the boundaries typically, where I struggle with a little bit more, is when it comes to like this type of stuff, like working on this. And when I have a new idea, it's like, oh, I need to do that. And then I say, I'm going to go to bed at, 11 o'clock, and then it's 2 a.m. I'm still at the computer working on stuff.
Oh, wow.
That's where that can get me a little bit more. So I have to kind of set boundaries. One of which is, I can't let this, bleed into family time. Like, I want to spend time with my kids. And so I can't just sit in here in the office for hours in the middle of the day when I could be spending time with them. So once they're asleep and in bed, that's kind of when I go to work. But that's just me personally. That's like a boundary I've set for myself. But is that what they were talking about? Those types of boundaries?
I'm sure that's what they were talking about. And I think I love that you've set those boundaries as a husband and a father, and your wife and children will, as they grow up, they're going to notice that, and they're going to cherish that, and it'll be in their stories that they repeat forever and ever. And so I think that's so powerful. But also think it's really beautiful that you found something that you're passionate about that keeps you up until 2 o'clock in the morning.
I agree. Yeah.
I think that's what most of us are missing. Like
Yeah.
something that you're not up stressing about something, you're up because you're diving into something that makes you feel alive. And I think that is, I mean, hats
Thank you.
off to you for that. Yeah, cheers.
Much
So
appreciated. Yeah.
so
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, question. So what exactly is it that keeps you up? Like, what are you diving into um other podcasts? Are you doing research on how podcasts perform? Are you thinking about topics? Like what's
Yeah.
twirling around in your mind at 2 a.m.?
Oh, well, first of all, it's twirling around in my mind all the time. Like it's just like up here
Mhm.
is just like a constant. Again, you can ask people that know me. That you can ask Deb, you can ask Rachel, my brother, anybody. It's like they know if like I went on a run. And I don't know how you, because I think you still run, right? You still do a decent amount of running.
You know what? I haven't. I stopped running maybe 4 months ago, and I like to like right now is the time where I'll start kind of leaning out for summertime, but I kind of
Got it.
cut the cardio out a little bit for like a couple of months.
Gotcha.
But I'm like a 4 mile girl. Nothing
Nothing crazy.
major. Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
No, I'm kind of, that's like around what I'll do, maybe a little bit longer sometimes, but like when I go on those runs, like it just clears up my head and just all these ideas start, pouring, like the sweat goes out, but like the ideas come in. And then
Yeah.
people know when I've been on a run, they're like, cause I start texting like, hey, what do you think about this and this and this? Like, oh geez.
I
he
love
went
it.
for a run. So no, it's yeah, I constantly have just ideas and thoughts about different things that I'm doing. It might be editing, it might be looking into some design things, something that we're trying to create. It could be just trying to get ahead and edit a bunch of podcasts that I have stored. I have a couple of other things that I'm working on for like Kevin Bracey, who I co-host another. Yep. That's awesome. That's right. Kevin. Kevin.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, no, I love Kevin. We have another podcast together. So that's the thing too. I have two podcasts now, and so different things I'm working on with him. But like you said, I love it. And I heard somebody say a little while ago, because it was Jocko Willink, the U.S. Navy SEAL. He's a lot of motivational stuff on Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he was talking to someone, and they're like, how do you squeeze all this stuff in? He's like, well, first of all, I won't sacrifice time with my loved ones and family to do the stuff that I want to do, whether it be write a book or work on my speaking engagements. He said, so if I want to do it, I do it when everybody's asleep. That means either late at night or earlier in the morning. And I'm like, oh, I love that. Like, I thought it was a cool thing. And, because I am so passionate about it, like you said, it doesn't feel like I'm like, oh, just like grinding away at night, trying to finish something. It's like, no, I say, oh, I'm gonna pump the brakes, and then it's like just blow right past the stop sign and keep going because I'm enjoying it so much. So it could be anything and everything, but usually it's a lot of times it's editing, trying to get ahead, stuff like that.
Love that.
Yeah.
And then I do have a question. So like, what's the end game for you?
As far as the podcast?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's just to make it as big as possible. Like, obviously this is another reason why I can tell and I know that I'm so passionate about this, because obviously it would be awesome to monetize this, get to a place where you're getting so many downloads, your audience is so big where in various ways you can monetize it. That would be awesome. Like I would love to do that. But even if that never happens, like even if I don't make a cent doing this, like I don't think I could stop. You know what I mean? I could, but I don't want to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the end goal, would make this thing as big as possible, and obviously get connected to more people, branch out more. Hopefully, add some fun value to people's day. Like that's mainly the big main goal, right? Is like get connected to people, and then not only that, but help them get connected to amazing ideas. It might be one where we're just literally talking about nonsense the entire time, and it maybe brings a little bit of positivity, some fun to someone's workday. It might be the conversation you and I were having earlier about the your body keeps the score. That's a very deep conversation, but that might challenge someone or inspire someone in a very different way. So that's kind of the ultimate goal, is hopefully we can just have some kind of small impact on the community and the people who listen. But yeah, if I can make some money doing this, that'd be awesome. That'd be pretty dope. I'd like that.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, everybody would win. Rachel would not have an issue with me being here until 2:00 in the morning. So
And
yeah,
maybe she wouldn't have an issue with me being here either.
ooh, that sounds kind of a lot. I don't know if I can. She really likes spending time with you. So, and that was the first thing she's like, after she said, "Hey, why did she text you back and not me?" Then she texted my sister, and she's like, "You know what Alexis did or didn't do?" I'm like, "Oh, oh yeah, it was a whole thing. It was a
Never
whole
gonna
thing."
hear the end of it. Oh my gosh. Oh,
I'm never gonna hear the end of it. Like I said,
that is
I'm
so-
terrified to have you back on the podcast.
Don't worry. We have a date. I think if it's not this week, it's the following week. So don't worry, we're safe.
Okay, good. Because
Yeah,
we like having you on here. So
and I enjoy it. And you know what? I hate to be repetitive, but I love what you're doing with the podcast. And I have been slowly but surely taking off and listening to the different your different guests that you've had on. And everybody brings something different. And I've really enjoyed the podcast that I've listened to. I always find little nuggets in everything that I've listened to. So you're doing a wonderful job. And I think I said this last time too. You have a really good voice. I'm not saying you're ugly, but you have a really good voice. It's like perfect for podcasts.
well, thank you. Thank you.
It's
I
very
appreciate
nice.
that.
Yeah,
And
I appreciate
thank you for not calling me ugly either. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't want to be like, you have a voice for radio, like you have a face for radio. People say that.
That's something my brothers tell me. It's fine. I'm used to that. I can take it.
No,
Like
it's
when
just like a good podcast voice.
No, I appreciate that. No, that means a lot. And we did an episode a little while ago about giving people their flowers. And so, and part of that, our conversation was like being willing to accept that. And usually that's one of those things that's weird for me. So I would make a joke now, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to accept what you said. And I appreciate that. I'm trying to grow.
I'm glad you are, because it's one thing that it's a sad truth, but most grownups have a really hard time. We can take you're fat, you're ugly, you're a B word. We can
Yeah.
For some reason we understand those. But we're so uncomfortable with, you are so beautiful. Oh, you are brilliant. We have such a problem with people building us up. And it's just like you said, every time someone, gives you a compliment or they try to give you flowers, you make a joke, right? You make something funny about it. Or some women even, oh my God, you look, that dress is beautiful. Oh, it was only $5. Like I have to bring it down.
Deflect somehow.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think it's beautiful that you're working on that. And I think it's just pay attention to when people compliment you versus how you talk to yourself. How do you communicate with yourself? And it's one of the things that I feel like I'm getting really good at is taking those compliments. And, if someone tells me I'm beautiful or something, I'm like, I do what I can, like, because I'm in the mirror every day and I'm telling myself I'm beautiful. So when someone tells me, I know.
Yeah.
When someone says, hey, you look good, I think so too. Thank you. And so,
that's awesome.
Just pay attention when people are giving you your flowers. You pay attention and see how you really feel about it. And before, sooner than later, it's going to be natural that your first thought isn't going to be to make a joke. Your first thought isn't going to be to laugh. It's going to be like, the first thought is going to be like, absolutely. And
I appreciate that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so,
100%. I almost, it's funny is I almost waited for that specific topic until you were on the show again. Like I almost did it. No offense, Deb. It was a great episode, but I really did.
What?
I was interested to see what your perspective would be. And now I get a little taste of that, but no, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's a very interesting topic to me. It's something, like I said, I've noticed both, externally and internally, how people handle that. And it's a weird thing because for me, I'll give a compliment to someone and they'll be, they'll react that way. They'll deflect. And you're like, hey, I'm trying to give you a compliment. But then when it's flipped, right? And it's me, it's like, no, you're doing the exact same thing that annoyed you about the other person. It's like, it's a very bizarre thing. But yeah, no, so I appreciate that.
So this is, and just kind of going on that, this is actually something that I think about all the time because I'm a words of affirmation person.
Yeah.
And if I am walking down the street and I see a beautiful woman, I have to tell her, like,
yeah.
If I see, like, I'm very vocal. If I see someone and they're doing something out of the ordinary and I make sure that they see, like, hey, I see you. Like,
right.
I know, like, that's effort. You put in work, like, kudos. Right. Like, good job. And I think, like, not a lot of people do that. So for my company, we were like on a Zoom call. It was like a Zoom happy hour maybe on a Friday at 5. And everybody was talking and there's, different things being passed around. And the head of HR is the one facilitating this meeting. And towards the end, he's like, well, does anyone else, have any questions, blah, blah, blah. And I go, hey, I don't have any questions. I'm really new here. I don't really know, much of anything about, what's going on. I said, but one thing that really stood out to me is that you've made the entire onboarding and HR process really fun and funny. And I said, and I've never met anyone in HR that has been able to do that. And I was like, I just think you're a fabulous person. And he goes, oh no. He was like, we don't do that. I'm very uncomfortable. He was and then someone else came on and they were like, he doesn't like anyone, saying nice things about him.
Man.
And I got off the call and I was so sad that this grown man, and the whole company knows, this grown man, you can't say beautiful things to him. And he's a beautiful person, but he's not comfortable hearing that. And I don't know. I just thought it was so interesting. And
especially for him to say that, like to actually say, oh, I don't do, I mean, like I said, I'll make a joke, but I would never say to someone like, oh, no, you can't say that to me. That's another level. Yeah. That's another level.
Yeah. He was like, no. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh. That's so devastating to me. But again, I think it really lines up with how we talk to ourselves and what we allow from other people. So yeah.
100%. I just realized we did not talk about boundaries at all. So I don't know. That's okay though. Boundaries are good.
But you kind of you kind of touched on boundaries, and I think I don't feel like I should speak on boundaries because I have never really been a person to struggle with boundaries. And so I feel, and I have friends who do struggle with those things and read all the books about it. And I feel bad saying like, hey, like, don't think about it. Like, just say no, don't be there. Don't do that. Like, don't allow that. Don't like, this is one of the biggest things for me. And I think the older I get, the more I realize you cannot control other people. Okay. And so if you are in a situation where someone is treating you disrespectfully, they're hurting you, they're treating you in a way that doesn't make you feel fully alive, fully loved, fully whole, then instead of addressing them and saying, hey, you don't talk to me like that, or you don't treat me like that, you just say, hey, I'm not going to be around you if this is how you treat me. And you make that decision to not be there.
Yeah.
You just make that decision. And I mean, I feel like this could be a whole podcast because I mean, there's different types of boundaries, right? There's boundaries when it comes to work, when I'm supposed to be working 9 to 5 and my boss pings me at 6 p.m. and asks me for something and and then no, actually I get off at 5, holla at me on Monday.
Mhm.
That's a work boundary. There's different, like there's so many different categories comes to um when it comes to boundaries. And so I just think everybody needs to have, I think it's important to know the base level of boundaries, and at the base level you have to know who you are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And at the base level, if I am I hate to use sports because I don't know anything about sports, but let's say I play soccer and I'm a goalie. I know that I have to stand in front of that net, and my only job is to make sure nobody gets a ball past me.
Yeah.
That's my role. That's my position. That's who I am. And
Mhm.
so all of my rules and all of my relationships with the other players and my relationship to the ball, my relationship to the net, all of those boundaries are based on my position
Yeah.
and me fully knowing if I'm the goalie, and I don't know, I hope this is not wrong, but I'm not going to be sprinting to the middle of the field, right?
Yeah. Right.
I'm going to stay where I'm supposed to be because I know who I am. I'm not trying to play another position. And so I think at the base level, you need to really know who you are and figure out what you value and make sure everything lines up with that and go
Yeah.
from there.
100%. I love that. Love that.
Yeah.
You give so many good sound bites. I just want to say that, like, you make my job so easy when I have to edit this thing and post like promotional clips. I'm just gonna be real, like, and I'm not gonna name names, but there's been times in the past for all the, because I've been doing this podcasting for 3 years now, different podcasts. Sometimes I listen to an episode, and as I'm doing the interview, I'm like, this is gonna be a struggle. This is why I'm up until 2 a.m. trying to find that good clip, and it's tough. And then we have an awesome guest like yourself and others that is like, the struggle is, which one do I pick? Because there's been so many. So thank you so much. You make my life so much easier.
Thank you for
Yeah.
giving me those flowers. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was there anything else? It's 9:30. You know, it's an hour past my bedtime now.
I know. You know what's funny too? Rachel's like, so you'll probably be done around 9:30. I said, no, we usually try to go around an hour. She's like, yeah, but last time you and Alexis were talking for a while. So like, all right. All right. She's just, here's the thing. She's just a little bit jealous.
Oh,
You
for
know what I
sure.
mean?
She's jealous. It's just gonna be it just is what it is. You can't even like she's gonna forever be jealous of the podcast juju that we've got.
Exactly. And have you ever noticed, like, anytime you've come over to our house or our apartment, anything like that, like, I'm never there, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is why she's afraid. She's afraid that the conversation will just take off, and then, pretty soon it's going to turn into like an unofficial podcast. So she's gonna hear all of this, and so
I look forward to it.
yeah. So, anyways, I'll never actually see you at our house. I'll always be gone.
You know what? It's so funny. So that's one thing, like the last time that I came over, it's one thing that I really like. I don't think I've ever paid attention to it before, but the last time I came over to your house, I was like, you know what? He's never here when I come over. I was like, does he like hate me or something?
No, I like you too much. That's the problem. And I didn't even know it at that point. Rachel knew at that point. She's like, I can't let this happen, because
like, I am not going to let you around my friend. You're not going to take my friends.
yeah, she's like, that dude, he never shuts up. I can't let him around Alexis because now it's too late. I took matters in my own hands and reached
right.
out. So it's too late, Rachel. I'm sorry. So
I love it. Sorry, Rachel. We owe you.
yeah, I do, for a lot more reasons than just this. But yeah, thank you so much for being on here. It's always a pleasure having you on here. It really is. And I'm not just saying this. It's one of those, you're one of those people and one of those guests that we've had on this show. I have to kind of tell myself, like, okay, don't reach back out too soon, because like, we don't want to abuse your time. But I could just reach out like every week. You know what I mean? Like,
you are
hey,
so funny.
let's start our own podcast. I'm just kidding. I can't start a third. Rachel,
you're already up at 2 a.m. whirling things around with your 2 podcasts. Listen, I don't ever hesitate to reach out. This is actually enjoyable for me.
Oh, good.
You're so easy to talk to, and you're fun to talk to. So don't ever hesitate to reach out. I think too, like another idea that I was thinking about is maybe you should have a podcast. Maybe it's 3 sessions, I don't know, but you take all of your guests that you've had
Mhm.
and maybe put all of them, maybe like 7 at a time, where you just put them all on the same podcast so that everybody can just kind of collaborate and throw different things out and just kind of vibe to each other. Does that make sense?
That does. That's an interesting, and maybe like pick one topic and everybody kind of chimes in.
Yeah. And it might be a little chaotic, but I also feel like maybe it could be really fun.
That's a great idea. I need to write that down. That is a good idea. Let me
Yeah.
pause for a second. Okay. Perfect. I like that idea. I'm gonna have to think about how to make that possible.
Okay.
That's definitely doable. Awesome. Well, hey, where can they follow you? Can I say I love your Instagram handle because it's so confusing. I don't know what's going on.
Wait, what's so confusing about it?
Because like anytime I try to like search your name, I can't find you by your name, but I have to like, oh, it's right. It's happy something.
Okay. So I want to say this. I
Okay.
started my Instagram not understanding what Instagram was. And
Okay.
so I chose the name Happy to Be Here 1438. And now like I wish I could change it. Maybe I will one day. But it's basically like I'm really happy to be here. Like I'm really, really like in the moment, taking it in. It's so sweet. I'm happy to be here. And then 1438 means I love you. And then the 8 stands for everyone, because I love people. And
okay.
I love you, everyone.
I love it. See, even that, I was making fun of it, but you made even that sound cool. So
Had to
there we
break
go.
it down.
Awesome. I love it. Well, Alexis, thank you so much again, as always. We appreciate it. And anytime you want to hop on here, you have the open door. Maybe one of these days we'll get you on here when Deb's actually here.
Yes, I would love to. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love
So
to connect with her.
Cool. Well, thank you, Alexis. And you can get some sleep now.
All right, Senor Takimoto. I'll see you soon.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable podcast.